If we live within the struggle or the stress of that, that is doing nothing but really dictating the next form of reality, right? And so with wherever our centered heart, centered space, centered mindset is, that is creating that next. The now is creating the next now, and the next now, and the next now. And so what in the world are you doing with, yes, that attention, that breath? What are you seeing outside of yourself? And if we're seeing it and we don't like it, what can we do to find the solution?
Welcome back to the channel. This is Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and seafood, Taoist Master San Qing. And welcome back, my dear friend, Cortney Kane Sides. I just am so delighted to have this conversation with her today. She is a psychic, a medium. She is an incredible being, an offering of all wisdom teaching through her own artistic expression that she shares with all the people that she heals. Welcome to the podcast again, my dear friend.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me back on. One of my favorite things with us is we can jump on this, podcast together and just chat 4 hours. Last time we jumped on, we had it scheduled to record, and we literally sat here, I think, for 2 hours and recorded nothing. And we should have been recording. It would have been a fabulous podcast. Yeah. But thank you, my friend, for having me back.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. And, always the hot topic of conversation on this channel is consciousness. And what a better way to basically have the audience oscillate than talk to a mastered psychic and medium that you have been consciously contributing to humanity's betterment for decades. So it's very exciting to have you here on the podcast and being able to, share the experience that is this conversation. So I will refer the audience to our past podcast to get more information on how you got here, which is always the topic of conversation. You can abbreviate if you like, but furthermore, we're just in the presence of a psychic medium. So hang on a second. Why don't we cut right to the mustard and get down to the good stuff, which is you are sharing this stuff with people on a daily basis and have been for decades, 20, 30 years. I can't remember. It's decades.
It's over 20 years, probably 22 years now. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you've seen a lot of things. And what I love about your specific mastery is the way that you express that divinity, that spark of that evidence through your artistic expression. It's so unique. I want the audience to understand how unique her expression of her, as you would call it, spirit. I assume you refer to spirit, that this energy transmutes through her, which is an understanding within the audience. This is how we're getting information. This is how Cortney is putting you into a space where you can now see things that might have been conceptual for you, or you may have had a little taste of something through the spirit world, and she's helping you reunite with your family and friends and things that are evidence-based, that give you solace and grounding and so nourishing for the heart to get these conversations. So why don't you share more about how it is that you have brought yourself to this incredible teaching?
Well, I thank you for that. And what I love is also your way of really understanding what it is I do. And so the way that I maybe am different than some is that when I'm connecting to my guides and angels, I always say I feel so much that I feel in color. And through that, through meditation, and I'll give you that bit of history on how I came to really understand that this gift was really present within me. I'll get there in a second, but I'll share with you even an example of a painting. This was from a client. Was this yesterday? 3/11. Yes, that was yesterday. And it's a painting of a cup. And her husband, I guess it's dry, so I can just hold the painting up. But it was as simple as a randomness of a cup. It's so random. But the message behind this, her husband had passed. And that blue was just the emotional understanding and capacity, the mourning, the grieving, but the love and the feelings behind the relationship. But what was so cool was that her husband from the other side came through and mentioned the symbol of the cup, and that they were always drinking from his cups, that he had specific cups that he had drank from. And she stopped. She's got 3 children. And she said, like, this morning I was picking my coffee cup. And she said, I literally went to my favorite coffee cup and I thought, nope, I want to select his coffee cup. And so that is what comes through in these sessions, is something that only you will know. And now a cup does not come through for everybody else. I don't know that a cup has ever come through in a session in 22 years, but for her, that's what that was. But this little drop was also to remind her to make sure that she was also filling her cup. So there's so many different multiple meanings within that. But what was really cool is her kids always are all like, they're constantly choosing only his cups to drink from. But he knew this, and he knew this because he's watching them. And so that's my favorite part about what comes through in the session, is it will validate the things that you know. And it will be sometimes so simple and so sweet that there must be connection. I think it's really important to question and to find out what you know to be true, and even be a skeptic about even the things that you're receiving. But if you write all of those things down in time, you're going to see too that we all have the gift, which I know you agree, my friend. But as far as where it came, I've had it since I was young, the mediumship stuff. Well, the feeling the energy and feeling the vibration of another, feeling the energy of a room or a building, I have been able to do since, birth, and did not think that there was anything special to it. I assumed, just like you can breathe, I can smell, or I can see, you can see. It just was something that we didn't talk about because I assumed everybody else had that same sense and ability. And after my mother passed, 7 days after her passing, she came to me in a dream. And I knew that dream, the depth of it was something different. And because I was a good Southern Baptist little girl, I thought that was crazy and woo woo. And I wrote it down. So I got a notebook. And from 15, I had been trying to prove it to be wrong, trying to prove that there's no way that this is real. And so I'm a firm believer that if we all just start to track our own data and the signs and symbols, and we might feel something and it may fall into place a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, in time, you're going to see how truly connected you are. And that's what I teach for my clients too. So it's something that's been there and has grown for all these years.
Wow. Yeah, it's so powerful, and we always dismiss the simplicity of this union that we all have.
Mm.
And through the prison of the finite mind, we create this labyrinth that seems almost mission impossible to achieve, the exit plan, and being able to realize that you are truly all things. You're not separated.
Mm.
The idea of mind, body, and spirit is nothing more than a divisive sort of really throwaway statement, because the truth is we're all those things. We're not one or the other. But to find that is to be as potently connected as you are, naturally, unconditionally,
Mm.
without question. It's like this. I always remind people, be childlike in your nature and all things will be revealed. The simplicity of accepting things at face value, as that is the truth. And I think that beautiful part about your relationship, and the fact that you have never had a, a contending issue or another ideology or thought process that would limit you to believe that this wasn't true. And through your own self-discovery, which is the mastery of everyone, is more and more evidence, more and more truth through your connection. It's the magical stuff that we want to have access to individually.
What I love is that what I found out together in that last podcast is, you and I, very often we say it in different ways, but we're really bringing people back to that light within them, to that connection, and helping them understand that there are so many different layers to them, that it's quantum, and that connection can help them heal the relationship to that loved one, the relationship to our own selves, our ancestors, our highest selves, and therefore even the physical body, in the way that we were speaking about even earlier before we came on. When we heal, and that even means emotionally, when we're healing through seeing our energy outside of ourselves, it helps us understand that, oh, wait, these paintings help us be able to look at our energy and say, oh, okay, I understand. That feels out of place. I can tweak my energy here. I can do this. It helps the client take responsibility for their own path and then start to make a new direction, or start to take the better path, start to heal the hurt, the pain, all of that, the grief, if it's grief. But it helps, I believe, then start to take responsibility for their role in this human experience and the spiritual experience we're having.
Amen to that. I mean, it truly is. It's self-discovery, self-mastery through whatever path, and I always attribute it to a very simple um, um, awareness that is a sort of a path of self realization. As a Taoist, it always starts with the spark of desire, which
Mm.
in turn creates inquiry, and inquiry then nurtures contemplation. Contemplation turns into curiosity. Curiosity then blossoms this divine thing called hopium. And hopium is absolutely addictive in of itself, because the more and more you merge into that hopium, you realize that it forms your belief system, and that belief system is then met with knowing through your experience. And so this beautiful divine sort of a sultry symbiosis that goes on, moving all these parts, realizing they're all one, gives us this incredible uh, um, yellow brick road that returns to the Oz as a seeker. You seek, and through that, the incredible wisdom teaching that you share, and really returning back to the origins of who we are, which is we're creators, and that artistic expression that you're able to fortify and solidify into this imbued piece of artwork that is now alive with
Mm.
this essence of this experience that you're having with your clients, is just second to none. The charge that we're getting right now is the very evidence of this, what some of my dear friends, the parapsychologists, would call psychokinesis. I just call
Mm.
it the primordial mother. It's the now moment. It's the substance. It's the Fa Jun. It's here.
What's interesting to me is I do believe I see so many clients that are in corporate careers. They've built those businesses. They've found success. They've got the bank accounts and the homes here and there. But what I'm finding is they're now coming and feeling, I don't want to say broken, but they're in such a place that they still haven't quite gotten it. And what they're now working on is like undoing everything that they've ever, in a way, done. Like they've done all the things society and the system has told them that they needed to do, and now it's unlearning and coming back into that child's play. So it is interesting that I finger paint. I mean, I literally finger paint these paintings for a living, right? And I remember I was in corporate. That was the career I was in, and I remember in meditation getting that, knowing that this was how I needed to put it out, but not liking it, but I knew it was the way. Like I had such resistance for just letting go and allowing it to be. If I see a piece of art, I can paint that almost verbatim. Like I know that I can do that, straight lines, and I like perfection. I like it to be a certain way. And for many, many years, I didn't even hang my art in my home. Now it's got it all over the place, but for many years I did not like it. And for these paintings, I didn't like the paintings, but I knew that that was the way of me feeling and processing the energy, and it was me letting go of that rigidness of the way I thought, or I thought who I thought I was. And so in a way, I've also done that work of letting go, coming back, finding. And for me, I believe that's a process we never finish doing, right? But when we are able to let go of that rigidity and find the play, and kind of even go back to when we were 4, what were we doing with our free time? When our parents were, busy, what were we doing when we were having fun? Were we out in nature? Were we putting our feet on the grass? Were we coloring? Were we playing with Barbies? Were we building something? Like, what is that? I believe that when we go there, that is a clue to what was innately part of our spirit and what is going to help fulfill us. That's my belief. And so I do think that these sessions, and I know in your work too, you help people find that access to their soul.
Yeah, one of Courtney's incredible techniques that she uses, which is also very much in line with a Taoist primordial alchemical process, is we return to the breath, right? And that's a very huge component to her mastery. And it's palpable, it's tangible when she enters into that primordial state, which for a Taoist is, between the breath in and the breath out, we find the very center point, which is the primordial mother. And once you become familiar with Courtney's incredible mastery, you're going to realize that she's always moving this oscillation through the breath to re-energize a finite situation that needs to be more concentrated. Through the breath, she will dissipate what would be considered a stagnant energy, and then regenerate and form that within the individual, the collective. And it's so potent because when you speak on it, my dear friend, it's an experience, as it should be, because that
It's
is the true nature of reality.
what was really cool, and I do suggest everybody to go back and watch that first podcast, because it was something I did not know what Taoism was. Honestly, I learned a lot by us coming together, and I that breath. That's when I was like, wow, we are really connecting to the same thing, and it is really beautiful. But that breath, if you look, I've been doing that the whole time we've been together. You know that. I'm sure you sense it and feel that, and I can do it without even anybody knowing that I'm breathing that full 4-second breath in, full 4-second pause, full 4-second exhale out. But I'm consciously aware of everything I'm understanding, imparting, pausing on, and moving through, and moving that energy. You just said it, the stagnant energy that's needs to be let go of, or is needing to be filtered through my energy, or the energy of the moment. And it is really interesting because even in my podcast or the sessions, I can very rarely go through any of those things without pausing and filtering. That's the way I see it. And that pause is coming back to that homeostasis. And it is to me very much like that nurturing, that nurturing feminine energy, that mother's holding, if you will, the held space of energy. And so it is really, it's cool that you get that without me even having to articulate any of that information. And so in these sessions, it is crucial as we're connecting that you're breathing with me, and that my intention is that the client leaves understanding that that is also what helps them connect to their highest selves, their loved ones on the other side. I'm a firm believer that we don't need a name of our guide. I don't know how you feel about that. I think we can call many by name, but I think us having to have a name is a human like need. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, there, you say tomato, I say tomato. There, as I will
Mm,
refer to, all the teaching. It's always, there's a million ways up the mountain. The second you dismiss someone else's belief system, you dismiss your own, and that's that
yeah.
returning factor. And the true commodity, the most valuable commodity within this state, which you would call a realm, a dimension, material. We just refer to it as the material. The goal of the Taoist seeker on their path of Taoist rights is to bring mortality and crystallize it into this material state. And that would refer to what we call the primordial mother, which is the center point of all things, which is where you merge yin and yang. Yin is nothing more than a byproduct of the void, the primordial mother. Yin and yang are the byproducts. These are the currency Yin is the absorption of all colors, yang is the emission of all colors. And you merge those two together to create what is the true substance of returning someone to whole, which in definition is what healing is. You are representing this resonance and you're sharing it with your audience, your clients, your community, and they are remembering who they are through that incredible symbiosis that is the union of one. That divinity shows itself in your connection. You are basically transmitting the primordial mother, which is the void. It's complete darkness. This is the womb to all creation. And this is where people start to understand, holy moly, this is not good and bad, up and down, black and white. Oh no, this is so much more than that. Yet for the construction of what you perceive as your reality, the most valuable commodity is your attention. So how do we harness that attention? We must solidify it in this material state with this evidence. And then all of a sudden you're off to the races. And of course, when people are experiencing our union, our communion right now, there is a unified state where through Courtney's breath, my breath, through our movement, we are pulpating like dough, this substance, and it's evident.
Mhm.
When I move my hands and you feel that chill through your body, this is unification, my friend. This is the now moment. This is the true nature of all things. You do not have to have an ideology. Present moment is present moment. It doesn't come from a place, person, or thing. To embody that, to imbue that, to have it realized, there is nothing more or nothing less. Everything merges
Mm.
together. So we can fragment things from to a trilogy, to a binary, yin and yang, to a unified singular, which will show itself in this experience right now.
I agree completely with you. And something, as you mention all of that, my mind goes to one of my favorite quantum physics quotes, and that is, what is observed is changed. And so that is why with that breath, for me, it feels as though on that exhale, I am able to, in that moment, whatever is going on, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is that we're witnessing, if we're witnessing it, we're feeling it, we're meant to be witnessing or feeling it, right? So we're learning from it. But on that exhale, it allows me to set a beautiful energetic boundary, feel it, honor it. But then with an arm's length view, it allows me to say, what does this feel like to me? And now, listen, when we do that, that can help us in terms of, I feel like I'm feeling my mother. I feel like I'm feeling my father that's coming through. And you notice that, you honor that with that breath, breathe it in, exhale that out, and hold space for how it feels for you. And so in that space, when you give yourself more space with that energy, you may receive more. And if not this time, maybe next time, but you were opening that line of communication. But it's the same for me too. That breath is the way for me for everything. It's the connection to the loved ones on the other side, connection to my highest self, my guides and angels, to source, to spirit. But then also you're getting to also understand what you're giving yourself space so that you can decide what you are energetically wanting to rise and fall within frequency. And so you're able to then be able to take, again, an arm's length view to say, is this serving me? Is this not serving me? So that breath, I know in my experience and what I see and have seen for the last couple of decades with my clients, is that when you do that, you are then better equipped to take that accountability, to respond rather than react in life, to make better choices, to move the energy outside of you that is no longer serving you, or to just take a better direction on that yellow brick road, like you said earlier, on that path back to us.
Amen to that, my dear friend. And, if we just want to merge Taoist metaphysics and physics, and furthermore, a lens of a little bit more a sterile mechanistic viewpoint, I would lean you to contemplating the definition as such: light to wave to matter to particle, realized with your attention, intention, cutting from the cloth of perfection, what we call, my dear friend, the Buddhist monk, dukkha, distortion. And that is the currency. What is the currency of this realm? It's called energy potential. It's created from your attention intention. Once you form that energy potential, it is met with its own unique profile. That profile consists of vibratory frequential resonance. And once you meet that, oh, yes, it will be yours. Oh, yes, it will. So now you, as a tuning fork for this deciphering moment, your Sherlock to your Watson, elementary, my dear Watson, is that very moment where you have demystified the bankrupt and empty return that comes from the finite mind, and you've accessed what is abundance, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite, the ability to be the now moment, which the possibilities are endless and the probabilities are determined by your attention. That is the most valuable commodity. Just saying.
Amen. 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 We in my household, as I mentioned, my friend, we are in the process of selling a home, and there's a little rush, and you're always there's contractors coming and doing a few things here and there, and all the things. Just the stress of it, and I'm taking a breath as I even witness and say that big exhale out. But I'm very careful with my even out my the conversations my fiance and I are having, where we're placing our mindset. Because if we place our mindset and sit in the stress of it for too long, I mean, we have to address it. We're adults. We're handling all of these things, the moving parts, sure. But if we live within the struggle or the stress of that, that is doing nothing but really dictating the next form of reality, right? And so with wherever our centered heart, centered space, centered mindset is, that is creating that next. The now is creating the next now, and the next now, and the next now. And so what in the world are you doing with, yes, that attention, that breath? What are you seeing outside of yourself? And if we're seeing it and we don't like it, what can we do to find the solution? That's another thing with taking that big exhale and resetting your energy so that we can figure out, okay, that doesn't feel good to me. That feels like a lot of grief. Again, we're moving through grief. It could be hardship, losing somebody. It could be stresses in a career, selling a home, whatever that is. But when we take that big deep breath in and we take space, we're able then to see that energy outside of ourselves, which then helps us again be able to start to decide what can we do about this. And so I do know you have an app. I'm curious, and I know, listen, you're going to be on my podcast next week. We're going to do that. Yes. But can I ask you a question
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
about your app? Does your app help people move through that energy of being able to figure out how to get in that
Oh,
space and recreate? Yeah.
oh,
The
absolutely.
next
I mean, it's
frequency.
specifically designed and imbued and imprinted through my communion and relationship with my teacher Lao Tzu. So it's immortally activated. So the
Mm.
immortal presence is the very needle that moves the experiencer through the app. And furthermore, it's instantly evidence, because the second you hit play, you can be John the janitor, judge, jury, and executioner of the local court, or furthermore, a light worker, Dalai Lama, or a guru, and you will feel like you've had 8 pina coladas, a full body massage, in 10 days in the Bahamas, because
Mm.
we are now embodying this evidence. And it uses the ancient techniques that are formed within most masteries that are evident. By using this substance, this material state, you must be aware of the properties that are constructing it. And so we utilize those properties through these ancient techniques: visual, audible experience, creating a kinesthetic charge that is basically visceral, somatic. And so this is the indicator. Just as you and I are speaking, the true nature
Mm.
of the needle that moves you to your center point is what you're feeling, not what you're thinking. And so this is a very powerful way to instantly regulate your energy systems. We call them dantians, and that's the energy elixir field. And the ultimate goal is to drink from the well of immortality using that elixir that is the primordial mother. So that unification will come in and center the energy system instantaneously. And if you go, what I like to do is measure things because, as you said, our default from our human condition on our journey to being a human being one with all things, there is a journey. That journey will consist of introspective, analytical, skeptical sort of like view or lens point, because this is the programming, the conditioning that takes place within this reality. And so for you to demystify and basically step away from that very limited conditioning where you're separating your conscious and unconscious on that journey to being one with all things, when you merge it and you are 100% conscious, all bets are off. Anything is possible. And so you will instantly feel this response and you will be able to evoke it at will. So that means that you can reach for this evidence after your first interaction with the app, and it will measure your actual variables, and it will come from this substance that you're starting to accumulate within your physical body, because the ultimate goal is to have imperium, dominion, maestro over the 50 trillion cells, because this is further evidence of your validation. And so when you capture that, the goal is you go through this app, you do 9 weeks, you regulate and validate the 9 energy centers. You're activated as one. So there's a micro dosing. A lot of people are like, oh my goodness, I've done 1 week, but it's giving me the same session for the first week because you're micro dosing. Well, I'm not going to give you an epiphany where you overload and next minute you feel like you're having a psychotic episode, because the energy is so it's so intense that all of a sudden you're looking introspectively at the psyche, because all your shit proverbially will come up in that form, because it is all densely condensed and compressed in the physical flesh. So as you activate these energy centers, you're getting the microdose that's necessary for you to regulate. So what happens is you can measure it on a daily basis. You can be able to witness your ability to command that essence instantaneously. And furthermore, by the end of the 9 weeks, it's cheaper than 2 sessions with a therapist, a psychologist, a life coach, or whatever. And what happens is you can go, I'm done with the app. I feel mastered. And I get accountants, jurors, police officers, correction, security, whatever, light workers going, holy crap, I've never felt more high in my life. I am in the middle of tax season and I am as cool as a cucumber. I am so expanded and elated just to wake up in the morning. Nothing moves my needle where I'm at an extreme, because you're mastered your energy. So what happens is this is imbued within the physical body. Your attention is now mastering that, and you have the ability to, at will, take your emotions, your feelings, and move them off the computer screen as if it was a computer screen at will. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I was immersed in it for a moment, and I have the ability to remove it, transmute it, and then return it, so that you are liberating yourself and regaining what you have put out, and it returns to you as whole. You probably wish you never asked me that question.
I love asking you that, because essentially it tells me again, when we're able to learn what that frequency is within our bubble, which is to me exactly what your app is doing. It's helping people come back to that space, that frequency, with once they know it, once they master that, then they can tune it into, they can be in that space at any time that they call it to them, right? Or they can remain in that space once they find it, if they work in that way, right?
Yeah.
But to me, no, I love your answer, because it allows, what I hear is it'll also allows them to, yes, respond rather than to react to what life is popping up for us. And so, which means more enjoyable. It means we actually can live freely within the now with our husbands, our wives, our children, and even witnessing those past hurts and pains. And even while we might not still love those experiences, make peace for what it was and where we're coming after the fact, the healing after. What I think is also cool is that when we choose to jump on board with that healing, it can be pretty profound, the different things that happen instantaneously in our life. And again, what is observed is change. And you and I are in such alignment with the way that we work in such different ways, that is the thing I think that brings us together. Another thing that I think is really interesting, I keep going back there, and it just dropped in my mind. What in the world was that? There was something right there that I was hitting on, and it just went whoop. Um, Let me think of what that was. It's going to drive me
Returning
nuts, my
to
friend.
homeostasis, returning to whole, the path
Returning to
of,
homeostasis.
as you put it, you would say, in the bubble, being able to have dominion over the state. Instead of it, you are responding, not reacting to the very
Yeah.
moment, the now moment.
It's out of there. Not even wherever I was going with it. It just went
Of
whoop.
course,
It wasn't even the
whatever,
way it needed to
whatever,
be. Yeah.
exactly. There you go.
Whatever it was. What I will say is, what I really think is really cool, I will say about these paintings, is very often the images show up in the physical. This was many years ago, and the first time I witnessed this actually happening it was a large group, maybe 200 people at this event, and was speaking, did random sessions throughout this evening, and it was over, packing stuff up, and we walk out there, and this woman and her husband starts rushing down, coming like back into the room, and she's freaking out, and she's like, I have to show you this. And she comes in and she shows me her painting. I'm sure I have it on a drive somewhere because it was really cool, and I remember we took a picture of it. But her painting in abstract colors, it was beautiful and very different. It almost looked like horses running. But what was really cool, and it all had different variations and meanings for her in her emotional life, what had happened within her, history. But as she turned and walked out of that room and walked down the hall at that hotel, she looked at the wall, and the painting on that wall, it was not abstract, but it was the exact same shapes, the exact same colors, but she saw it and it smacked her right in the face, and she was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what this means. And so what I have come to find is that these paintings show up. Yes, they do have multiple different meanings. The colors mean multiple different things, and your guides and angels will, or your loved ones on the other sides, will bring those symbols or the meanings of those things through. But when we see them outside of ourselves, something I believe and I know is changed instantaneously in them. Either something they will now leave behind, or they are moving into this next realm of life and frequency for themselves. And I think that's the really cool thing, is because very often I don't even have to tell anybody that happens. They will sit in a session and then say, oh my goodness, that is the thing I'm looking, if it was a virtual session, that's the thing I'm looking at right now. So very often people think I'm remote viewing, and sure, could that be in play? Of course. But there's so many different factors when we're connecting to one's energy with what comes through in a session. And for me, it just helps us understand when our energy is out of place and when there's healing that needs to be done, we can see it. And so for me, those paintings are very much like a mapping. It helps us find our way back home. It's a mapping back to ourselves. Very cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it evokes instantaneously the physiological validation, which, so many people want to step away from. I'm ascended. I project out of my body. I'm in the astral plane, and I don't feel anything. This is your tuning fork, ladies and gentlemen and ladies. The realization of that and your commune with that is very important, to realize that it's an anchor for your immortal self within this material state. So for that purpose, you must refine your signature, your own ability to recognize the individual, unique energetic profiles that are everywhere, and there are infinite amount of them. And so by refining your mastery of this tuning fork, you will find more and more evidence. And evoking, just as you passed on the way 126, it evokes, instantly imbues and burns in the energetic architecture for any seeker. So they're off to the races immediately, because they can start to exhibit and refine and validate their own experiences through the energy potential. And so similar things, psychokinesis, telekinesis, telepathy, clairvoyance, these are all things that Cortney teaches people and shares with the world. These are the very mastered techniques that she uses to give them the evidence that they need to know their loved ones are present, to know that there's, a future, a present moment, things that are being given to you as gifts to validate where you might be not in basically you're in lack of your hopelessness, for you to return to hopium, hope. That nourishing moment is these evidential experiences that Courtney are giving you. So, it's so powerful to be able to experience that. And most people are like, well, I start with I don't feel energy. And it only takes me a second to activate their energy potential because they're exhibiting it and experiencing it, perhaps maybe not consciously. And so there you either activate their energy body so they're completely aware, or you give them a few quite clear points of evidence that show them, oh my goodness, I've been experiencing this my whole life, and now I'm returning to it through Courtney's resonance.
It is really interesting because I find that so many of, I think those who, when we're feeling as though, ooh, I want to go and have a session with this person, or I want to go and experience this thing, very often it's because there's a likeness in energy, or there's a connection there. And what I find is so many of my clients already innately have an understanding that they've hidden deep down within themselves. And so they do want to awaken to those natural gifts and abilities, and they want to be held, and they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be validated, and they want to know they're not crazy. They want to know that, when they were 8 and they remember coming to their parents with this or that whenever they said, oh, you're fine, suck it up, go back to your room, or, oh, you didn't experience that, no, when they were being kind of pushed to the side, they're understanding as an adult that, oh, wait, oh my goodness, if only I had been validated, if only I had known that knowing without knowing how I know, feeling within me was something real. Wow, where could I have used that intuition? Where could I have used that trusting my own self at different areas in my life? And I know that just like you, I see clients again that are grieving, that are wanting to amp up their business. They're wanting to expand in all different ways of life. And what I do know is that they're wanting to be able to see themselves and understand that the person within that they know is there, but they're just simply wanting validation and permission. That's the thing. So many people are looking for permission to even start to access it. Another thing, and this is, my mind is going back to that major pause now. You said something earlier, and maybe it was even in our conversation before the podcast, but one of the really cool things that I have been seeing is that the progression, as we as leaders, teachers, healers progress, we are also always healing on our own path as well. And what is really cool is the way that I lead and teach today is so much different than the way I was leading and teaching 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I'm sure, and maybe even 5 minutes ago. But one of my favorite things is those clients that are psychologists and therapists of mine, many of them refer their own clients or their patients to me. And when they call me and say, oh my gosh, the healing that happened within that 30-minute, hour, 90-minute session was like, we've been working on this for 5 years. We've been working on this for 3 years. And that is one of the coolest things, is to be able to physically see the breakthrough, the emotional connection and support. I had a session with a pair of sisters. One of the sisters had a session last week. I sent the recorded session to her. I guess she had shared it with her sister, and her sister had a session with me many, many years ago. And her sister had a session yesterday. And the healing that happened within those two girls with their father who had just passed was a really, really beautiful thing to see. And one of them, very successful, very left brain. I love that. I love it. And she said, again, the healing that happened within just witnessing, not even her own session, but her sister session, witnessing and seeing that it was as if you knew my father. It was if he was sitting there just talking to us. She said was such therapy. It was just like it's 2:22 on my time, by the way. I love that confirmation for us. But she said the healing that had happened within that 30 minutes of a session, it was a 30-minute session. She said was years of therapy between all of them. And it just was a really, really cool thing to be able to, hear that over and over again.
Well, that's the evidence we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, you can become whole instantly. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about the present moment, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies. And so when you are in lack of, or you are in excess of, it generally lies within the extreme of this yin and yang experience, this dualistic perception, which is the evidence of this realm. So you're either going from one extreme to another, which generally is from the past to the future, that you find this discontent. And the present moment is where everything is evidentiary. And that's the potency of how you tune into all that information. So you bring from the spirit world the evidence through their loved ones in that present moment that may be from the past or the future, that makes them whole and liberates their energy and returns them to knowing who they are. It's so magical.
It's beautiful. So many of the clients for all of these years, what is really, really cool to hear is when they'll say, they're almost speechless after their session. They can't quite find the words, but they'll say, I just feel, it's always funny because I can see them fumbling on the words. I just feel lighter. That is always what they say. And I understand that if that's the job I'm meant to do, is just to be here and also find that lightness for myself, but then also allow others to feel lighter. Oh my gosh, that I would love to do nothing but that. And so I think it's really, really cool if we can find that light within and then help others find their own.
Well, it's interesting how people perceive that as lightness, when in essence you imagine you return to your contemplation to a river, the fluidity of the water and the stagnation of a rock or a boulder or pebbles are creating resistance against the flow. And the second that you return this person to whole, it instantly dissolves the boulder, the rock, the pebbles, and forever you will feel the expansive knowing. And that's just liberating their energy. It's not being constructed or restricted within a certain point within the physical body that would represent some type of density. When you expand, it's still extremely potent and dense, yet it may seem at face value as being lighter, but there's no obstruction. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. Yes. It helps them to remove the obstacle. Yeah. Or at least understand that there even was an obstacle, or understand that there's more work, but it does give them an instant energetic and frequency lift or even a frequency return, I want to say, back to their innate. It
Liberation.
attunes them. Yeah. Liberation. Thank you. A liberation.
Returning that energy. So they're not concentrated, whether it's in the past or the future, or furthermore, outside of themselves. This is where you find the retracted, contracted moment that seems so heavy, that would be referred to within a psychological sort of profile as a trigger trauma of some nature that may even reside within the physical body. But generally speaking, it's so removed from who they are, yet it presents these physical traits. And so the second you, as a mirror of perfection, as we put it, the primordial mother, you return them. So they look in the mirror and you regain and restore and regenerate and liberate themselves. And they go, holy crap, the crack is gone. The deficiency, the excess, wholeness, as the definition of
Immediately.
healing is present.
Mm.
Oh,
Immediately.
and
Immediately. So,
that resonance is profound. And it's like that's what you carry as your signature. And so from that, the traits of that evidence will be seen within this dualistic perspective. People love you or hate you. That's how it works. This is how people show that lens.
that is true. And I think that you know, us letting go of even our judgments of ourselves. They either love you or hate you, and often we either love or hate ourselves, right? And so being able to figure that out and really look at those different layers within and keep keep addressing, keep acknowledging and continuing to drive to that centered space of being held. And I am a firm believer that like you said earlier, when we come back to that centered space, that is that mother. It's like allowing that infant to lay on your chest, allowing yourself to lay on the infinite mothers, with that support and that grace. And so many of us don't allow ourselves to feel that yet again, you know. And some maybe had never had it, but to find a frequency and find access to that and return to that, that is when we find true healing, I do believe.
That's the void. And so the void is not yin and yang. The void is everything. So from that, you have the mirroring effects. So the primordial womb is the creation of all things. This is the universe. And so as you go out to go in, the veil that you pierce from what you perceive as the universe is this symbiosis, which is you instantly witness the phosphorus white light, which is the actual evidence of the primordial mother. So as you enter through
Mm,
that phosphorus white light, you are able to see complete darkness, which is the creation of all things. And it starts
yes.
to oscillate. And it starts like a pebble. As you throw a pebble into still water, it ripples and oscillates and expands and creates the very reality that we see. And this is an ongoing symbiosis that is never ending. That's why when you exhibit this power and you connect with it, we always return to the power of nine, the highest point of acknowledgement, a transmuted effect of numerology. Furthermore, just more evidence of the mother. Nine is completion. And so you go
Oh,
from completion to birth. And this is going on every fraction of a picosecond. Did you have an epiphany right now, my dear friend?
a massive and unaudible epiphany too. The new home that we're moving into is a 9. And I believe 9, my next year will be my 9 year. This year, I believe, is my 8 year. But why you just said that, and just all of those things were coming into place. But for me, so that was a personal epiphany that I just had. I hope the rest of you were making your own epiphanies
Yeah.
throughout this
Well,
podcast. But yes,
even though it's an 8 year, it's still a 9 because two
okay,
nines merged together create 8, which is infinity. So this year is actually the year of 9. It's 2025. So it's a
okay,
most
yes,
potent year. So even though you may refer to it as an 8 within your own journey, it's actually a 9 because an 8, when you separate it, is two nines that creates infinity.
wow.
Oh, oh yeah, you can't make this stuff up. It's
You
like,
really can't
oh
make this
yeah.
stuff up.
So
And
evidence of that is just completion and creation constantly, everywhere, at will. And so you can either be half empty or half full. It's your choice, my dear friend, but you are all things. So this oscillating effect is never ending. You can literally just be half full for the rest of eternity if you choose to.
mm, yes, and it's a choice. So what are you going to do about it? That's what I'm going to ask everybody who's watching this. So what are you going to do? That's right. Are you half empty or half full? What is it? It's interesting. I think that so many people they believe that even starting to access the healing, starting to access Even the idea of awakening, or some call it awakening, right? Or wanting to learn to expand in their consciousness, they start to be so overwhelmed with the steps or what to do. And it actually, I do believe that we can make it as difficult as we can, but sometimes we can, or it can be as simple as it is too. I mean, if you just take that first step and just start to go within, have a notebook. I'm a firm believer. I think it's beautiful to be a skeptic, for you to find out for yourself, so you're not always looking for the answers outside of you. But if you can start that practice of meditation with your app, or something else, however you'd like to do it, sessions, having it confirm what you know to be true. I do always say a good session will confirm what you know to be true. Other things will come through as well, but when you're getting some information that is confirming that innate knowing that maybe you didn't have conversations with people about, that only you and your connection with your loved ones or your guides, those things come through. It will also give you validity for the things that haven't yet transpired. And it's healthy to even be a skeptic about some of those things too, and say, we'll see if that falls into place. And I say that because I was for so long. I'm really not anymore. I still love facts. I love proof. I love science. I love all those things. But once you're like, you can't make this stuff up, the world expands to that infinite connection. And just breathe in, honor it, and allow yourself to be held. I think of it as, we have a pool, so laying and allowing yourself to float in the pool. And so it can be as simple as that, allowing yourself to be held within the now.
And that brings us back to the very offering, which is the fruit of divine presence, which is Mother Earth. This is evidence of this symbiosis within yin and yang, which is formed within this material state. And so the ultimate mother of creation of all things is the byproduct of yin and yang. So the yin and yang byproduct of the mother of all things shows itself. So darkness is actually light, yet this is from still silence to sound. You see these byproducts as a formed evidence of your own self-realization, and it will always be present in everything. There is no exception. And this gives you more and more crumbs and creates your Sherlock to your Watson, elementary, my dear Watson. And this is the magic that you bring, is that resonance, because it returns everyone to whole. And you will want nothing, you will need nothing, you will give everything, as a selfishness to the selflessness is the sacrifice of what you are in lack of that will return you to whole. Amen to that.
Amen. Amen to that. Amen to that. And it's true. How in the world can we know that light unless we fully accessed the darkest of the dark?
Which in turn is yin. It's just the absorption of all colors. Yet your perception is creating this very finite, bankrupt version that will come in the form of something nefarious, ominous, dark in its nature, which darkness does not represent evil. Yet if you perceive it that way, absolutely, I promise you, I deal with it on a daily basis. I give remedy to it. I give solution to it, because it is your very creation. And it all seeds within your belief system that furthermore is evidence of past lives in this present moment. Reincarnation's another story, another day. Incarnation, however you want to put it. These are very much the fundamental building blocks of how you create, because you are a creator in default. You're in selfless servitude. Yeah. And on that note,
we could be here. We could be here another hour talking about, I'm seeing so many people, and again, I'm not even to open another can of conversation necessarily, but my goodness, so many people give up in the dark. And so they get up, or they give up, and then they sit and they wallow in that, never even understanding that on the opposite side is that. And so I am seeing that with a lot of people right now, is that they're sitting in that, not understanding that they have choice within that frequency. So anyway, thank you.
Well,
You're just my light bulbs.
Well, yeah, the turbulence is now, right? So it's oppression, depression, possession,
Mm,
and that possession is your possession of whatever that is affecting your currency, your commodity,
mm,
your attention. And so when you realize you dissipate the fragile, finite, bankrupt mind that we call intellect, and realize that that is just the starting seed, and when you cross over to the other side, break on through to the other side. Anyway, I think Jimmy Morrison had a little something to understand this greater nature of reality. You find abundance, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite. Oh, yeah,
in all
baby, it's on.
in all forms.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I understand that we do have a finite amount of time, unfortunately, today. So I do appreciate that, but we're going to do a part three. And I'm also going to talk to you on your channel next. Is it next? I think it's next week.
Next week.
So
Next
and
week.
so we will go over this. I understand to all the audience, Courtney has a little bit of a time restraint, and that's due to the fact that I can't shut up, which people remind me that I can't shut up. I find it so funny when
We
people get on. It's so funny because I'll get conversation where people leave I found your channel. Oh my goodness, I'm looking through your podcast. I just, you have all these guests on. Can you just shut the fuck up, please? And I'm like, thank you. I've evoked something within you that you are returning to whole, and you're showing yourself. This is the very evidence of the things that you need to be nurtured on. I furthermore invite you to inquiry, the nourishment that's necessary for you to be patient for yourself, to you to love yourself,
mm,
to appreciate yourself. And people are like, I wanted you to tell me to fuck myself. No, I'm here to remind you of who you are. And this is the very resonance that Courtney and I are talking about right now. And it happens. And it will evoke
that's
a very real experience from you.
well, if I didn't have to go pick up a 10-year-old from school, that's the thing. I will say that I love to hear that from you. Mine, the comment is, "Oh my gosh, get to the point, or are you rambling?" And I'm like, "Well, that's my way." So if you
Exactly.
don't, you go to find another person to get it straight to the point sometimes. So
Right.
I do that occasionally, but if not, you're going to get it in my Courtney Aquarius way because it is filtered through me, my friend. And so, yeah, it's really cute. I usually don't read the comments, but they're 9 times out of 10 wonderful. So I love that. Thank you for having me on. Yes,
Oh,
I
I'm so
appreciate that.
grateful. I'm so grateful for you, my dear friend. And you know, it's about us contributing to the collective, which is this human experience that turns into the basic signature resonance of humanity, which is selflessness and servitude. And we acquire that sentience that gives us the superpower, which is empathy. And then the more and more people connect with their empathy, the more and more we will make the world a better place.
The point of it all. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being with us too. I appreciate it so much, my friend. And
Uh,
also, yes, next week it'll be another fabulous conversation with no time restraints. And even the third part, we'll do a third part with no time
exactly.
restraints, and we'll go on.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to put all your social sphere and interweb under this podcast. I want everyone to go out and experience Courtney's incredible connection with your true self. And it only requires requesting some time with her through her training. I think, do you have any training right now, or do you specifically just
I
doing stuff?
Right now I've got private sessions. I do have some virtual events coming up. If you are part of the VIP inner circle, you get discounts on sessions, just to let you know. It's a little fun thing. But you also have private virtual sessions too, or not private virtual sessions, but private group experiences that are not open just to anybody outside of the VIP inner circle. So that's a really cool thing. But the development, we do have some workshops that are coming out that will be on probably in the next couple of weeks live. So yes, we do have a few of those things. I do give information about connection. We will start there and we will do that. But there's lots of ethics involved. I'm real big on spiritual ethics and, energetic boundaries and things like that. And so we move through that and then we go to that next level. So all of that you'll be able to see. Yep.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm so grateful for you, my dear friend, and coming on and sharing with us today. And I look forward to part 3 for the audience. That's coming up. And you can find our conversation also over at Cortney's channel in the near future. With that, I want to thank you for being you, and I'm so grateful for you. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. I'm your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master San Qing, and we'll see you in the next one, guys.